When it comes to bass fishing, something that you hear often is that like there are no secrets in bass fishing anymore. You know, back in the day when our electronics weren't as good as they were, there were a lot of like secret spots out there on the lake. But really, ever since the invention of side imaging, it is so much easier to go out there and find areas really quickly. And the truth is, though, is that a lot of us anglers are still drawn to the exact same places when we look at a map, which actually leaves quite a bit of the lake not pressured. And so in this video, I really didn't want to talk about this, but I want to talk about a little something that I do a lot when I get to different lakes out there that have helped me to find very good areas that are just kind of untapped, unpressured, and really an unpressured bass is typically the easiest ones to catch. Now, before we get into it, this video is brought to you by Fin Fishing Apparel. And right now over at Fin Fishing, everything is 20% off, including the all new duck pants, which I'm wearing right here. Guys, these are the best pants. I know it's coming from me, but so far, everyone who has got them, like I've had really good reviews that are starting to pile up on the website. And I've had several people now, which this is my favorite thing, kind of learning just this business, is that when you have someone buy something and then immediately buy the exact same thing in the other color, you know it's a good product. And so I'm really pumped about the duck pants. And right now, again, they are on sale. So I'm gonna leave some links down below in the description. Shopping at Fin Fishing is truly the best way to help support this channel, and I greatly appreciate it. All right, I am going to flip you guys around and we're gonna look at this map here because really I just kind of wanna show you a couple of minor things that can really make a big difference when it comes to fishing out there on the water. So let's go ahead, jump in. All right, well, hopefully the audio isn't completely trash out here. Hopefully you guys can hear me all right. But I kind of want to just look at a map. This is a map of my home lake. And, you know, this lake is filled with all kinds of just points that bass are all over the place on. But really, I kind of wanted to show you something that has really become a big deal for me personally, not only on this lake, but really anywhere that I have been. So for example, if you kind of just look at this random area right here on the map, you'll even see some of my waypoints that I have here. But you have areas like this on the map. Sorry, I don't know why it's kind of it just looks a little bit funny, but you have areas on a map here that I think it just call an angler. Like when you look at them, you're like, yes, that is an area I want to focus on. So obviously here you kind of have, you know, a point right there. You got a point right there with really tight contour lines. That is something that you've heard every bass pro talk about. You know, tight contour lines. Same exact thing right here. Look at this. Another point. Contour lines, like these are the type of areas that us as anglers, we all love to find. And the truth is, a lot of times these are the best areas. These are the areas that hold a lot of fish. The other truth about these areas though, is that they tend to have the most pressure. And whether you are a tournament angler or not, if you find really good areas, but you know that you have to share with a ton of other anglers, like it just becomes a really bad day out there on the water. And so something that I've really focused on a lot, like especially over the last couple of years, is I will look at a map like this and I will kind of more or less circle areas that I think are really, really good. But then I really try to look and pinpoint the in-betweeners, the stuff that is really in between. For example, again, this is a perfect little situation right here. But if you look at it on a map, you will see a point like we talked about, point. Like these are all good little areas, but you will see right here on the map, right there, you see how there's just a little kink right there going all the way down, just a little kink. It's just a very slight depression. Actually, what this is a small little ridge. And a lot of times these little tiny ridges, just like that, are just a little bit harder bottom. And these little areas that are really close to like areas that you would like automatically assume bass are going to be, can be the exact areas where a lot of these bass, when you get a ton of pressure, are going to slide right to. And it's very, very simple once you kind of look for it. Just these small little hitches in the bottom, but those are really been a big deal for me over the year. And not only that, but sometimes it's the areas that are also just more rounded as opposed to points. You know, if you look just up here, you have this really defined, great looking point right up here, like an area that you would definitely think bass would be sitting. But if you look kind of at the other side of this point, again, not really a very pronounced point, if anything, out there on the water. Just a small little rounded off point. And these are the areas that a lot of anglers are just going to skip over. They're going to come here, they're going to hit this little, you know, good looking spot here, and then they're going to move on. Maybe they'll run up the lake, they'll hit another little good looking spot, they'll move on. And these little in-between areas that have these small little subtle changes to them can be absolute dynamite, especially when you fish more flat areas. Let me go up the lake here just a little bit here and point something else out. For example, like, look, this is a blue dot. A blue dot on my GPS unit means a fish catch, just like that. And if you look at this particular area, like you can see here, it's not really the prime area. If you look at this kind of point, a lot of people would probably fish around here. But again, little bit of a small ridge right here, which is what attracted me to that area. If you actually scan over this, you will find that there's a little bit of rock right through this area, and the rest of this is more of a softer bottom. Bam, that is right where I got bit, and where obviously I made a little bit of a waypoint there. So the big thing here is that there are really no secrets in bass fishing, but there are kind of ways of simply outthinking anglers at times. And I think that in today's age of bass fishing, with all the pressure that we get, this is one of the best things that you can do, whether that is looking at a map, looking for these just really subtle changes in the bottom, and sometimes the other thing that you can do is present bass that are in these high pressured areas, something that's completely different. And we talk about that often when we're talking about different lures, because there are so many different baits out there on the market. And a lot of us, though, again, we all kind of have that like 80-20. Like I always talk about the 80-20 rule. It's in business, it's in life. Like there's everything. And the same thing applies to bass fishermen. You know, like like I just showed you on the map, you know, a couple of those like areas that jump off the map are going to be the area that 80% of the anglers probably hit, where those anglers that are those little more subtle areas, maybe only 20, maybe even less than 20% of anglers are going to hit that. So if you find a group of fish in those areas, man, you can really have a lot of success. And the same thing comes to lures. Like there's a lot of times where we pull up to an area, we see everything that area potentially gives us. Maybe it's grass, maybe it's rock. We're thinking chatterbait, spinnerbait. You know, we think a lot of the exact same baits, and sometimes it's simply going with a different presentation, something that the bass have not seen. And it's not always something that is completely crazy different. It's more about showing the bass, like in that specific situation, something different. For example, I talked about this a long time ago, but there was a guy, I fished this tournament a long time ago in Pennsylvania, and there was a guy who, him and I were literally like, we were fishing the exact same spot. Like we kept going by each other, and I didn't know the guy, but we were very cordial with each other. We communicated. And at the very end of the tournament, I ended up talking to him about the one spot that we kept going up to, which was a deeper foundation in like 15 foot of water. And I like caught one fish off this foundation. I thought it was going to be really good because it had been like, I had caught some fish and seen a lot of fish there in the practice period. And lo and behold, I found out that like he caught all of his fish there, and he caught them before I was there in the day, and he caught them after I was there in the day. The biggest difference is that in that particular day, I was fishing a football jig. A football jig is like what I would consider to be the standard lure that a lot of anglers may pick up on a deep foundation for largemouth. You know what he was fishing? A wacky rigged Senko. Letting that thing fall 15 foot deep, hopping it up, and then letting it fall again. Showing a bass something completely different in that specific area. Now, if you go up in shallow water, a lot of bass may see wacky rig, but a wacky rig out deep is not something a lot of bass have seen. And again, being different, whether that is with your mapping or with your lure selection, can make a difference out there. It is the thing that I would consider to be the secret in bass fishing. So guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to check out that fin fishing gear right here, and I will see you guys in the next one.